which I can't believe on travel stories, I didn't talk about, I think I was just thinking plane. I didn't even think about when we drove to the Everglades and he got bit by a water moccasin, because that was a crazy travel story.
Well, and
But
that's where I was going to go next because I wanted you to introduce what type of dog you had. So
yeah.
I would love to hear that story. I'm sure the listeners would as well.
Yeah, so we were on a case with the FBI at the time, at least in Florida, pretty high profile case involving an Amber Alert. Pasco actually had the case anyways, at least part of the case, because the abductor was found dead in Pasco County. So I had worked that scene, and then as I was there, I was like, hey, have we found the baby? Like, I have my dog. Do we need to search for the baby? So then I deployed on scene. We didn't find anything other than the guy that was already dead there. And then FBI got involved. We talked with them. They wanted us to come down to the Everglades to continue searching for the child. So we went down once, searched for about 6 hours, and then drove back. And then a week later, they called us again and said, hey, we have another tip. Can you come down? And at that point, we were really vetting any and all tips. It was probably every other day I was working on that case, whether it be up in Pasco, in Hernando. We went to the Hernando dump along the side of the road, off 19 and off the interstate on 75. So we were kind of all over the place. So then we go down to the Everglades again, get up early. It's like almost a 4 or 5 hour drive down there. We get to where we need to go. We get out of the car and they point us to where they wanted us to search. And at that point, there was just myself and one other K-9 handler there. We were the only K-9 team searching though at that time. So I deployed, and since I was a forensic investigator, I'm not armed. And really in the Everglades, we're not worried about people coming up on us, but alligators, I would probably rather a person come up on me. But so my trainer was with me. We go into the woods. We're approximately 20 feet off the roadway into this thick vegetation. And all of a sudden the dog starts limping. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. We just got here, 5 hour drive. And I was like, it better just be a sand spur. So I was like, he's okay. And then eventually he started limping to where he wasn't even putting any pressure on the leg. The leg was all the way retracted up. And he's really he's crazy. So he was still running, but I could really tell something was wrong. So I get up to him. I have him on a 30-foot leash. I finally get up to him and he's bleeding. And I was like, oh, he had to have stepped on something, maybe like broken glass or a thorn or something like that. So I'm like, I'm going to take him back to the car, figure out what it is, wash it out, and we'll go again. So I walk him. As I'm walking back to the car, all of a sudden, my trainer starts screaming and he yells, don't move, don't move, don't move. I'm like, what? And then he pulls out his gun. And I'm like, what's happening? And I'm just sitting here with the dog. We're maybe like 10 feet apart and the grass is so high, I can't see what he's looking at. And he's like, I'm gonna have to shoot it. I'm gonna have to shoot it. And he yells to the road to all the FBI guys like, hey, I'm about to fire. I still have no idea because he won't tell me. I'm like,
Right?
what's going on? And, I'm scared that it's a gator and like my dog is so low to the ground. So I like pick him up. And he's like, it's a water moccasin. So he shoots it. And then at that point, we looked at each other and we realized what had happened, that's why he was limping. And, we look at each other and we kind of do that like, oh crap moment, because we're in the middle of nowhere. So he's like, get into the car. And he's screaming, I'm running. I get him over there and I look and his foot isn't swollen yet. Some other people are like, oh, it's probably just a thorn. I was like, no, there's no way. It's not that much of a coincidence that the water moccasin was like up with his mouth open, ready to strike again. So I was like, we're taking him just in case. Like, I'm not taking any chances. We're taking him. So the closest vet was 40 miles away. They had talked about like bringing in a helicopter to take him to get anti-venom. And I'm like, so meanwhile, we had only been there 20 minutes at this point. We get him in the car. We realize it's only 40 miles away, lights and sirens in a county we don't even belong in. And we book it to the nearest vet. And so my trainer's driving, I'm in the passenger seat, like turn around, gripping the cage. And I'm just watching him the whole time. And I'm like, his foot's turning blue, his foot's turning purple, his foot's turning black. It's swelling. It's triple its size. I think he passed out. And so by the time we get to the vet, I yank him out of the car. I throw him over my shoulder. I sprint in. And we were like, hey, if there's any way we can just like get him stable, we'll transport him to a Blue Pearl vet up by us. And they were like, all right, we'll let you know. So we drop him off. I have like my mini meltdown, right? I'm only like a couple months post giving birth. So I'm still like, hormonal. So the vet calls and they're like, yeah, there's no way you can transport him. We already had to give him 2 doses of anti-venom, which is way more than any animal should really get. And they're like, you just need to be prepared. And I mean, I've had animals, and anyone that has animals know that when the vet tells you to be prepared, your dog's about to die. So I was like, oh, okay. So they're like, you're gonna have to stay the night. We don't have any clothes. I didn't have a toothbrush. Like we had to go and find a hotel. So we go and find a hotel And then we had to go to Walmart, and I had to buy clothes. I had to buy a toothbrush, hair, like a whole bunch of stuff. So then we finally the next day go and get them, and we had to like outfit the back of the truck to make it sterile and get them back home. It was a mess.
Yeah.
A hot
Wow,
mess. But
that's quite the story. Now,
yeah.
a couple things listeners probably don't understand. First of all, obviously, it's an animal, it's a dog. People, you develop a bond with that dog. You don't want to lose them. But there's another side of it too. Canines and agency dogs have a lot of cost in training
Yeah.
hours, and there's a value there as well. That's a huge loss as well, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah, because it's not just, and a lot of people think it's just like the initial cost of the dog, but it's not. It's the cost of the dog, which in general is expensive, right? Because I think the majority are all, like purebred, whatever they are, right? Whether it be Lab or Malinois or German Shepherds, they come from elite breeders. So right there, you have a pretty big penny that you're investing. Then it's the training that you put into them, and whether you outsource them to get trained or whether you yourself train them, it's it's either monetarily or investment of your time put in there. And then it's all the food, all the supplies, and then the trainings that you have to go to. Some of our canine trainings were almost $1,000 just for a couple days seminar. So that is a big loss as well. So it's the amount of time that you put into them, the cost that is associated with upkeep of them, and with just purchasing them. Yeah, it's a lot. So it's both the emotional and financial sides of it, and logistics. So that was like one of the only dogs we had. So if God forbid anything happened, or even if he got retired because of medical issues, now we have no dog, and now it's going to be a timely manner before we can get one bought, trained, and ready to certify and deploy.
Right.
Yeah.
So the end of that story, did he do just fine and recover
Yes,
fully?
the end of that story. So he was fine. We went to the vet every other day for about 2 months.
Wow.
Which was a 45-minute drive from where we live. So, and at that time I worked nights, and even though it was a 24-hour vet, they had to have a certain vet assess him every day. So I would get off work at 2 a.m. I would drive my 45 minutes to where he had to go. And I would drop him off for the night. So he would stay at little doggy daycare overnight and then go for his appointment. And then I would wake up early the next day and I would go get him. So we did that for 2 months every other day.